Ma'am, be ready for her session, and it is over to Dr. Subhash Shinde sir.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to one and all. I would invite and welcome Dr. Shailaja on behalf of my department and my college. She is the resource person of this first session of Swami Ramananda Tirtha Marathwada University Nanded sanctioned national webinar on contemporary Indian theatre, views and reviews. She will deliver her speech on East-West trends in contemporary Indian theatre. Dr. Shailaja Wadikar Madam has been working as director, School of Language, Literature and Culture Studies, Swami Ramananda Tirtha Marathwada University, Nanded. She is an ideal teacher as well as a disciplined researcher. She is working as the member of Senate as well as BOS English, Swami Ramananda Tirtha Marathwada University, Nanded. 8 students have been awarded PhD degree and 6 students have been awarded MPhil degree under her guidance. She completed one major research project entitled Modern Indian Theatre, a critical study of the translated plays of Tendulkar, Karnad, Rakesh and Sarkar. She has also completed 2 minor research projects. They are from structuralism to deconstruction and Girish Karnad's plays, gender consciousness and power as themes. Moreover, she has published her 58 research papers in reputed journals. She has presented 75 research papers in national, international and state seminars and conferences. In addition, she is also a creative writer. She is the author of 11 books. Now, I will request Dr. Shailaja Wadikar Madam to begin her session. Dr. Shailaja Wadikar Madam.
Thank you, Shinde sir, for your elaborate introduction of mine. Durgesh sir, may I share my PPT or PPT will be shared by your technician?
You can share your PPT, ma'am. No issue. No issue. You can share your PPT. No issue. Ma'am, you can share your PPT.
Yeah, sharing.
Okay.
At the very outset, I thank all the members who organized this one-day webinar. Sincere thanks to the principal of the college, the authorities of the institution. Special thanks to Durgesh Ravande, Subhash Shinde, and also to Mustajib Khan sir also. After the enlightening speech of Mustajib Khan sir, it's a type of supplement to it that I know because he is the man of theatre in the true sense of that word. The topic that I have chosen to deliver a speech is Eastern-Western trends in contemporary Indian theatre. So far as this presentation is concerned, I have confined myself to the 4 playwrights of Indian theatre: Girish Karnad, Badal Sarkar, Mohan Rakesh, and Vijay Tendulkar. Here is a specimen copy of the famous plays of these playwrights. One is from Ghanshiram Kotwal, another one is from Girish Karnad's Nagmandala, Bhuma by Badal Sarkar, and Halfway House, Adhe Adhure by Mohan Rakesh. When we think about the Western trends, we have to think about the world dramatic movement, which can be divided into various types of phases, such as the drama of university wits, Elizabethan drama, restoration comedy of manners, the tradition of problem play, angry young man tradition, and absurd drama. How these and so far as today's presentation is concerned, the main impact from the 19th to the present situation that has been taken into consideration. It is observed that theatre indicates a definite break toward the end of the 19th century. In the drama of university wits, we have Faustus and his contemporaries. In Elizabethan drama, Shakespeare and his contemporaries. But whatever tradition has been given by these playwrights, that has a complete break toward the end of the 19th century. And the book that remains responsible for this break is Origin of the Species, that got published in 1859 by Charles Darwin. The book is considered a milestone in the history of human evolution. Actually, it is related to the field of science, but it has its impact on various spheres of life. This movement, this book, Origin of the Species, it marks the beginning of naturalistic movement in different spheres of life, and this movement never remains confined to science. It has its impact on history, on art, culture, criticism, and theatre is no exception to it. The contemporary life of people and their problems become the subject matter of art and literature. The playwrights such as Henry Ibsen, George Bernard Shaw, Galsworthy, Barker, T.S. Eliot, Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller, Edward Albee, Eugene Ionesco, Sean O'Casey, etc., represent in their plays the inadequacies of modern man and false values of contemporary society. All these Euro-American playwrights use perspective and encourage them to think of their day-to-day life problems and allowing them to find out their own solutions to the problem. It is observed that the plays, particularly of Henry Ibsen, George Bernard Shaw, Galsworthy, Barker, sometimes problems of ideas. The changes that we observed in the previous theatrical movement and this one is that previously we observed that majority of the plays, I am not saying all, but majority of the plays deal with the life of the aristocratic people. There were heroes, heroines, villain, and a type of conflict between hero and heroine. The concept of poetic justice was there, but instead of this one, we observed that the plays which are presented by Ibsen, Shaw, Galsworthy, instead of hero, heroine, and villain, we have the central character who is known as the protagonist of the play. The life that is projected in these plays is the life of the middle class people. So the people, the play that were written toward the end of the 19th century and in the 20th century that deal with the life of the middle class people, and we observed that these plays came to be recognized as the plays of ideas also, because whatever problems were projected there, these problems were discussed very thoroughly, taking into consideration all the aspects of the problem, but any type of solution is not given by the playwright. The audiences are left to find out their own solutions. That particular term, problem play or plays of ideas, is used for the plays of Ibsen, Shaw, Galsworthy, Barker. But another thing that we have to notice is that although the plays of Shaw or his contemporaries came to be known as problem play, the term problem play has been used for the first time in connection with Shakespeare's plays, such as Hamlet, Measure for Measure, All is Well That Ends Well, Troilus and Cressida. And these plays are termed as problem plays because they deal with the dark aspect of human life and nature. The specimen play, which got too much popularity, worldwide popularity, is Ibsen's Doll's House, Shaw's Candida, Pygmalion, Mrs. Warren's Profession, Justice by Galsworthy. Émile Zola, he is actually a French novelist. He is convinced that only naturalistic movement can give vigor and life to the theatre and can make it modern and new. A change is needed so far as the projection of life is concerned through literature. That is his point of view. George Bernard Shaw aims at giving the crude banality of everyday life a dramatic garb. The interest of Henry Ibsen lies in using drama not as a means of entertainment, but as a means of bringing reformation in the thinking modes of people. His characters, such as Nora, Barkman, etc., made the audience aware of the fact that freedom can be achieved only by those who have the capacity to see the world and face the world as it is. It is observed that Nora's revolt against her husband has a profound impact not only on the British playwright but also on the Indian playwright. Particularly, we observed it so far as the Marathi tradition of Natya Manvantar theatre is concerned. It is said that she slams the door not only of her own home but of all homes in the world that look very sweet outwardly but has too many problems within the four walls of the house. However, it is observed another thing that came into existence in this period is the concept of a new woman. Previously, we observed that except the comedies of Shakespeare, we observed that heroine is always there in the form of a shadow. She is there to support the hero. But problem play or plays of ideas, it gave rise to a new concept of new woman who is morally well built, emotionally well controlled, who has the capacity to take the proper decision on proper time. Instead of being dictated by men, she has the capacity to take the decision and make the men to follow the decision. Examples are found in the character of Nora, in the character of Candida, and so many. However, the popularity of the problem play is challenged in the middle of the 20th century, particularly in 1956. Look Back in Anger by John Osborne opened at the Royal Court Theatre in London on 8th May 1956. It marks the beginning of a new tradition in theatrical world, that is the tradition of angry young man. If we go to the background, it is observed that that was the period of post-war. And in this post-war world, England lost its position and could not understand its role in the fast-changing society. The position was taken by America, and in order to achieve the previous position, so many changes took place in English society, reformation too. And within that, one welfare state was one of them. Opportunities of education, jobs for the people, facilities of health services were only on the one side of the picture, but on the other side, there was total neglect of old, poor, and sick people. Top jobs open only for the elite class. The opportunity of education that became the monopoly of the rich and the affluent people, and observing that type of disparity, the youth of that age got angry. In Jimmy Porter's savage attack on the society, the youths of that period were finding the realities of their own life. That is a British society. A young graduate at the British University is running a sweet stall to make a living quite away from the comforts of society, is the true representative of the misfits of the society. Jimmy wants to change the world. He wants to offer a set of fresh values, but people are not ready even to take the cognizance of him. That is why he is very angry. He can neither change the society nor can adjust himself with the fast changing society. That is why the feeling of anger and frustration is there. It has a few characters in the play. Jimmy Porter, who is the protagonist of the play, Alison Porter, his wife, and his mistress, I think Helena is there, and one of his friends is also there. The another term that is used for this type of play is sequencing drama, because the majority of the action of the play took place within one room, which has various sections as hall, kitchen, and all those things. The last trend that came into existence into the decade of 1970s is absurd. Actually, the term absurd is used for the first time by Albert Camus in his myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus is a person who is trying. Hello? Sisyphus is a person who is trying to put the stone at the top of the mountain. The action is rather symbolic, that man is trying his level best to achieve it is said that there is always a room on the top, and that is why Sisyphus is putting He's trying to put the stone at the top of the mountain. Every time the stone rolls down, and again he is trying to put it at the top of the mountain. That indicates that at present time life is meaningless, but it may be good, it may be better in the years to come, in future. That is indicated in Myth of Sisyphus. In 1961, Martin Esslin published his book Theatre of the Absurd, and now the term became popular to describe the plays of Samuel Beckett, Edward Albee, Eugene Ionesco, and so on. The absurdist playwright believe that human life is essentially meaningless. It is irrational, it is illogical, it is out of harmony, and that is why there is a state of chronic uncertainty. The absurdist playwright allow all absurd, illogical, irrational event to happen on the stage. There is not one-to-one connection even into the events of the play, even into the dialogues of the play. And that type of irrational, illogical events are introduced in the play to bring about the central concern that this is the true nature of human life. Beckett's Waiting for Godot marks the beginning of such type of plays. There is no plot, no characterization, no story, nothing actually happens. But the playwright communicates a lot. One has to read between the lines. At the beginning of the play, we observe that two characters are moving around a tree, and a boy arrives there, and the two men, they tell him that we are waiting for Godot. Godot is a person who will bring a key of salvation for all human beings. And in the second act, the boy again comes there, and he declares that Godot will not come. Although the absurd play indicates the negativity of life, that life is essentially meaningless, they end on the optimistic note. In Waiting for Godot, we observe that a tree is used as the setting of the play. The tree is totally bare branched tree, and toward the end of the play we observe that there is one leaf to the bare branches of the tree, and that one leaf indicates that greenery will be there in human life, and greenery is the symbol of happiness, that future will be good one. Even at the present time, although at the present time life is meaningless, it will be meaningful in the years to come. That trend started in the decade of 1970s, and that has been continued from 1970s to till date, that we are observing. Particularly, Khan sir also make the mention again and again of the theatre of Badal Sarkar. Very successfully, Badal Sarkar used the trend that has been given in the decade of 1970s. All these trends of European theatre are observed in the plays of the four playwrights from various languages, but in the other plays also, other playwrights are also there, but we have the restriction of time. That is why I have confined myself to these four playwrights: Vijay Tendulkar, Girish Karnad, Badal Sarkar, and Mohan Rakesh. When we come to Indian theatre, we observe that we can divide the span of Indian theatre into two periods: the pre-independence period and post-independence period. Similarly, we can divide it as language-wise also: the play originally written in English and the plays translated into English. The three stalwarts in the pre-independence period were Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Harinath Chattopadhyay, and other contemporaries are also there. In post-independence period, we have such vanguards as Vijay Tendulkar, Girish Karnad, Badal Sarkar, and Mohan Rakesh. Coming up on the pre-independence period, it is noticed that The Persecuted by Krishna Mohan Banerjee, published in 1831, is the first Indian English play. This play represents the conflict between Indian Orthodox thought and the new Western ideas. Michael Madhusudan Dutt's is called A Civilization, deals with the theme of East-West encounter. Another important playwright of the pre-independence era was T.P. Kailasam, and his plays included The Burden, Fulfillment, The Purpose. Bharati Sarabhai is the only women playwright of the pre-independence period. She was greatly influenced by the ideology of Jawaharlal Nehru and Gandhiji, and the impact is clearly noticeable in her writing. The famous play The Well of the People by Sarabhai, it deals with the theme of untouchability, the most burning problem not only of that period, in all the ages. Rabindranath Tagore is a versatile genius who has short stories, novels, sonnets, and plays to his credit. Some of the important plays are Ascetic, Chitradhara, Chandalika, Muktadhara, Post Office, and others. Sri Aurobindo's Perseus the Deliverer is considered the best play, which indicates his participation in the freedom struggle of India, and the other plays, The Maid in the Mill, The Wazirs of Basira, also got the popularity in that period. But the plays of Sri Aurobindo are closet dramas, the plays which are written to be read and not to be performed. Harnath Chattopadhyay has such type of plays to his credit as The Window, The Parrot, The Scented Lantern, The Coffin, and The Evening Lamp. Mahesh Dattani is a playwright who belongs to the pre as well as post-independence period. So many plays are there to his credit. Among them, I have mentioned Tara and Final Solutions and other plays. Mahesh Dattani is the avant-garde playwright in the sense that in his plays he discussed the taboo subjects, he introduced the taboo subjects such as sexuality, homosexuality, lesbianism, and others. However, it is noticed that Indian English drama in the pre-independence period could not flourish to a considerable growth. And here we observe that the main problem is that of language. English language was difficult to use as well as to understand. At that time, several European touring companies came to India and they performed their plays, but majority of the plays were comedies, operas, farce, which were not in harmony with the contemporary mood of the people. Instead, we observe that all these efforts individually and cumulatively they contributed to the growth of vernacular drama, particularly that of Marathi and Gujarati. Indian English drama cannot face the challenge of the vernacular drama, and as a result, Indian English drama went on decline in the pre-independence period. However, in the post-independence era, the translated plays of Vijay Tendulkar in Marathi, Girish Karnad in Kannada, Badal Sarkar in Bengali, and Mohan Rakesh in Hindi contributed a lot to the growth and development of Indian theatre. Some of the plays which have been translated into various Indian languages from Marathi, Shantata Court Chalu Ahe, Silence the Court is in session, Gidhade, The Vultures, Sakaram Binder, Khashiram Kotwal, Dambadvipcha Mukabla, Encounter in Humbugland, Kamala, Kanyadan, Mitrachi Ghost, A Friend's Story, Suffer, Cyclist, His Fifth Woman, and some other plays are also done. It is with Silence the Court is in session that Tendulkar got the national or pan-Indian recognition, and it is with Ghashiram Kotwal won him international recognition. Majority of his plays deal with the reality of human life. So far as Girish Karnad is concerned, 13 plays have been translated into English and other Indian languages. Originally, he wrote all his plays, except Flower, he wrote all his plays in Kannada. Flower is a monologue which was written in English and then it was translated into Kannada. His plays can be divided as the plays which are based on mythology. It includes Yayati, Fire and the Rain, Bali the Sacrifice. The plays which are considered folk plays are Hayavadana, Nagmandala, and the monologue Flowers. The plays which are based on history are Tughlaq, Taledand, Dreams of Tipu Sultan, and the latest plays which represent the problem of we can say the in the world of science and technology. Wedding Album, the monologue Broken Images, Boiled Beans on Toast, and one play is still not published in English. It got published in Marathi as Kati Sauri, and originally it was written in Kannada, and the English version is known as A Driven Snow. Badal Sarkar has a very different view towards theatre. Instead of writing plays, his focus is on the creation of theatre. The earlier plays are proscenium plays, but later plays are non-proscenium plays. In proscenium plays, we have Evam Indrajit, Baki Itya, That Other History, Cheshnai, There Is No End, Pagla Ghoda, Sari Raat, Trimsha Shatabdi, 30th century, and Spartacus. Among them, we observe that Spartacus is presented as the proscenium as well by the non-proscenium plays. And so far as the second phase of his playwriting is concerned, or creation of theatre, third theatre or people's theatre is concerned, we have such plays as Julus, Procession, Basi Khabar, Stale News, Boma, Indian History Made Easy, Life of Bagla, Scandal in Fairyland, Beyond the Land of Tamala. Mohan Rakeshesh, the original version is in Hindi, and the play which got translated into other Indian languages are Halfway House, Adhya Adore, Ashad Ka Ek Din, One Day in Ashada, and Leheron Ki Rajhans, The Great Swans of the Waves. When we come to Indian theatre, it is noticed that it has a threefold tradition: classical theatre, folk theatre, modern theatre. Khan sir, I am very conscious not to use that since I have a discussion with you that Sanskrit theatre is used for classical theatre, but consciously I am using since then the term classical theatre for the Asian theatre. Here we observe that the modern Indian theatre is connected with its root, that is classical theatre and folk theatre, and it is modern in the sense that the situation depicted and characters portrayed belong to all times and climes. We observe, going to classical theatre, it is observed that Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra is considered like that of, it has that much importance, which importance is there to Aristotle's Poetics, and it is considered a treatise in the field of dramatics and dramaturgy. It provides suggestions about production, direction, besides makeup, costume, jewelry, the movement of eyes and neck, body posture, and other things. The trend which have been used by the modern Indian playwrights, here so far as these four playwrights are concerned, I want to mention Vijay Tendulkar, and on a very large scale by Girish Karnad, are Nandi, so the character of Sutradhara, Vidushaka. Nandi is the beginning of the play with a prayer to Lord Ganesha or other deity, where all the characters appear on the stage and then pray the deity to assist them in the successful performance of the play. Famous example, we observe the starting of the play Ghanshiram Kotwal by Vijay Tendulkar. The character of Sutradhara is similar to that of chorus in Greek plays. Actually, the term chorus has been used etymologically for those people who used to put masks on their faces and used to sing songs at the religious festival. But in the Elizabethan era, we observed that the term is used for a special type of character in a play who has a different role than the other characters. He is there to narrate the story in brief, to introduce the characters, to tell the time between two acts, to passes comments on the actions of the character, and to connect the scenes with each other. In his apparently objective observation, the audience can study the other characters and then they can think about the future state of action. Famous examples are noticed in the plays such as Murder in the Cathedral by T.S. Eliot, Ghanshiram Kotwal, Encounter in Umbugland by Vijay Tendulkar, Hayavadana by Girish Karnad. The character of Vidushaka is similar to that of clown in Shakespearean plays. He is there to provide a comic relief, to provide a type of relaxation, we can say, after the tensed situation to the audience. And it is observed that the main purpose of classical theatre is to present a model of human behavior. In the folk theatre, that purpose is changed to a certain extent, because at the beginning the plays were written and even people look towards folk theatre as a means of entertainment. But later on, when we observe minutely, it is noticed that in the freedom struggle of India, Mahatma Jyotiba Phule and other Satyashodhakas, they used the folk form in order to, as a means of reformation, by throwing light on the ills and evils of the society. Nautanki is a very popular folk form of northern India, and Khayal, Bhagat, Manch, Swang, these are the various variations of Nautanki. And Tamasha is the very popular form of Maharashtra. Here we observe that modern Indian theatre has an intimate link with its roots, that is the classical and the folk theatre. It is modern in the sense that the issues depicted belong to all times and climes. The major trends such as the trend of problem play, the trend of angry young man, the trend of absurd has been used very successfully in the plays of Tendulkar and the other three playwrights. Life is projected as it is without trying to moralize or philosophize it in any way. The plays focus on man with all his complexities. Tendulkar makes the entry. The play that sets him apart from the previous generation of Marathi playwright is Manus Navache Bed, an island called Man, where he represents a modern individual against the backdrop of society. However, the term problem play, although the plays of these playwrights represent the problem of the contemporary people, they cannot be termed as problem plays because they represent the problem like that of Shah, Ibsen, Galsworthy, but they cannot be termed as problem plays because what these playwrights project is not a social problem but an aspect of socio-political cultural right, mostly on psychological level, like we observed in the plays of Shakespeare. There are plays such as Silence the Court is in Session or Hayavadana Nag Mandala or Talidanda or any other Procession, Boma or Stale News or Adi Adure actually chart the course of avant-garde Indian theatre in the post-independence to be more accurate in the post-1960 period. When we come to drama, it is observed that it is a different type of genre when compared with the other genres such as poetry, novel, or short story, etc. The playwrights write their plays to be staged and not to be read. So a play is performance-oriented rather than reader-oriented. When we compare the plays of 20th century with the previous one, it is noticed that the plays which were written in the 20th century or in the middle of the 20th century make a fresh departure in the choice of subject matter and the staging of a play. Instead of writing long plays, the new playwright prefer to write short or one or two act plays. Here the same scene of the play changes smoothly, directed by the commentary of Sutradhara on most of the occasions. So far as the language is concerned, it is observed that the dialogues are very short and crisp. Sometimes the incomplete utterances are there. So the language communicates more actually whatever the word have the literal meaning within themselves. In order to create the sensation of the spoken word, colloquial language is also often used by these playwrights. It is also observed that extremely roughshod and abusive language is also used according to the necessity of situation, and it adds to the intensity of the vulgar reality projected in the play. Here, I want to say something about Vijay Tendulkar's plays. So far as the performance of Gidhare is concerned, the Vultures is concerned, Sriram Lagu pursued a lot, and it was because of him that the play was staged for the first time. When the approval was given by the censor board asked to omit at least 150 slangy words from the play. At that time, Lagu said that when these words are used isolatedly, they appear to be the abusive terms, but when they are used in the flow of dialogue, they appear to be the punctuation mark. And if we remove these words from the dialogues of the play, it will not be the play of vultures, it will be the play of a sparrow. If the performance is there, it would be with all these words in the play, and when the play was performed in theater for the first time, it was presented whatever without omitting a single word. That is why I am saying that a roughshod language is also used. Extremely roughshod language was used in order to indicate the vulgar reality that was projected in the play. An effective use of pantomime, or we can say the body language, was also made by the new playwrights. The gesture, the silences, they speak more effectively even than the words. When I first read Ghanshiram Kotwal, at that time the question was there in my mind how it is possible to perform the play on a stage. I had not observed the performance at that time. To take out the nails, to wash such hands with lemon juice, to put the iron hot ball on the hands, how it is possible on the stage. And that time I came to know how effectively it can be shown with the help of pantomime or body language. All those scenes were depicted with that technique of body language. That is why gestures and silences speak more effectively than words. In some of the plays of these playwrights, it is observed that a character is reciting poems in the course of action, and these characters appear to be the mouthpieces of the playwright. The folk forms such as tamasha, launi, etc. are used by the playwrights. Similarly, another folk forms also, they were used to add sensuous and passionate elements to the play. They provide commentary on the ills, evils, and drawbacks of the society. In Ghanshiram Kotwal, we observed that the folk form tamasha had been used very successfully from the beginning to the end of the play in order to throw light on the ills, evils in the field of politics as well as in social life. Similarly, it is observed that due to the use of folk form, the play invites the participation of the audience, so the entertainment is more enhanced than can be imagined. The playwright endeavor more or less to develop theatre as an object of instruction or as a means of public communication at large. So theatre has been used by the new playwright as a means of social reform. We observe that Indian theatre in the pre-independence period could not flourish to a considerable growth, but in the post-independence era, the translated versions of various playwrights, they make the regional language theatre a pan-Indian one. It is observed that, 1 minute. They made bold innovations not only in the theme but also in the subject matter and staging of the play. Neglected, even forbidden subject matters were introduced, and the purpose was it to shock the sensibility of the conventional reader. We observed it in the plays such as the Vultures, Sakharam Binder, Kanyadan by Vijay Tendulkar. The main object of the playwright is to change the mindset of the people and to bring reformation in the society. The playwright's commitment to human values can easily be pursued in their plays. The play presents a society which was divided on the basis of caste, class, color, religion, gender, etc. Inequality, corruption, and violence characterize it. The life projected in the play is full of contradictions, but it is real. The protagonists are very sensitive, angry, and frustrated people like most of us. This peculiar temperament of the protagonist disturb the audiences and give them such a jerk that they are lulled out of their unconsciousness. As a result, their outlook is broadened, sensibility is sharpened, and vision becomes clear. It is observed that these playwrights are the playwrights of pan-Indian theatre, and later on the performances were there in the worldwide scenario also. Some of the plays of these playwrights are considered classics because the situation depicted belongs to all times and climes. And here I want to quote the example of Ghanshiram Kotwal. It is the play in which Vijay Tendulkar has used all the three traditions: classical tradition, folk tradition, and the play is modern, because whatever is depicted there, that is contemporary in nature. It is observed that Nana, Ghanshiram, and Gauri, they are the ancestors of power politics that the world will always supply and observation will always find. The classical trends such as the character of Sutradhara, the beginning of the play with Nandi, that has been used, the folk form tamasha from the beginning to the end had been used very effectively in order to throw light on the drawbacks of the society. And at the end of the play, it is suggested that Ghanshiram is read only as a person, while his role will be played by the another person. And that is why, if we want to change the scenario, we have to make a change, we have to bring a change in the mindset of the people. That tendency should be removed from the minds of men. With that message, the play ends. The play crosses the boundaries of historicity. Although the play is based on one of the incidents of 18th century, it is not the play which is related only to that incident. Actually, the play represents the problems that belong to all societies in all periods. In that sense, the play is a classical because it crosses the boundaries of historicity and temporality. The characters portrayed in the play are the ancestors of humanity that is supplied by the world in all ages. In that sense, some of the plays of these playwrights can be seen upon as a classic. Here, I want to say something about the theatre of Badal Sarkar. When we think about these four major playwrights, Badal Sarkar stands apart in that sense. So far as these playwrights, three playwrights are concerned, that is limited only up to writing. But Badal Sarkar is a person who is more interested in the creation of theatre than writing the plays. He is a man of theater in the true sense of that word because he created the theater as a means of reformation and even the performance of the play he adjusted in such a way through his concepts of Angan Mancha or third theater or people's theater. One or two paragraphs I want to read from my books where I say that voyages in theatre to go out there and come back and report, talk to others about it, talk to myself it, go out again with others, to others, learn to speak to others, learn to listen to others, try out things, learn by doing. So feels Badar Sarkar, one of the India's major playwrights, the pioneer of people's theatre. There are the lines he accepted. These are the lines he accepted once and forever in the creation of his theatre. To make theatre reach to common man is his sole aim as a playwright and successfully he towards his enthusiastic way. Theatre for him becomes an abode that has accommodated his cherished talent and aspirations and to which he has devoted his entire life to actualize his dream of establishing a just, humane and equitable society. Sarkar is the leader of theatre world in the true sense since he calls upon people to go hand in hand to discuss the current issues, to write a script, to make an ample use of human body as the most effective tool in presentation, to have a rigorous training and practice too, and finally to perform a play without the expectation of monetary gain. He is a playwright, director, theorist, teacher, mentor, and social activist, having visions and revisions. The beacon he showed changed the theatre goer's conventional sensibility of perceiving a play. In the post-independence era, the modern Indian dramatists have given a new environment with the existential undertones within them. Badal Sarkar's theatre within himself. To change the world into a place worth of living seems to be the sole motto of Badal's life. Following the dictum, rest not till the goal is achieved. He worked calmly, quietly, patiently, tirelessly, but confidently in the decided direction. He is not under the illusion that disparity in the life can be removed simply through theatre. However, he firmly believes that theatre can be one of the many facets of a movement that is The vultures, similarly, the Lekhni Balas in Encounter in Umbugland, and such type of characters, they appear to be the mouthpieces of the playwrights because they indicate the playwrights' compassion or feeling of pathos towards the victims of viciousness. We can see there. The folk forms have been used by the modern playwrights in order to add the sensuous or passionate elements to the play. In Ghashiram Kotwal, we observe that Lavani and Tamasha, they have been used very effectively from the beginning to the end of the play, not for entertainment, actually to throw light on the ills in the field of politics. The plays which were written in the middle of the 20th century and later on, they are open-ended in nature. And the audience leave the theater not with a calm, pacified mind, but with a disturbed mind. And there lies the success of the playwrights and the plays to make the people think over their life, over their problems. So that was the main purpose of these playwrights, and that is achieved by the open-endedness of the play. We observe that in the pre-independence period, Indian English drama could not flourish to a considerable growth, but in the post-independence era, the translated plays in various regional languages, they make the theatre pan-Indian one. These playwrights are the different type of playwrights. They are new in the sense because they made changes not only in the theme but also in the subject matter of the plays. Tabooed subjects were introduced by them, and the main purpose behind it was to shock the sensibility of the conventional reader. The society that was projected by them was divided on the basis of caste, class, color, religion. Violence, corruption characterized it. The protagonist of the plays, many of the plays, Evam Indrajit, Hayavadana, Ghashiram Kotwal, Kanyadan, Sakharam Binder, they are very angry as well as inwardly frustrated because they could not adjust themselves with the fast changing society, neither they can change the society also. And such type of angry protagonist, they give a type of jerk to the audience's consciousness. They make their outlook broaden, sensibility sharpen. We observe that a negative side of life is projected by these playwrights, but these playwrights want to create a type of, we can say, an egalitarian society where each one can get according to his own needs and according to his own capacity. That vision is indicated particularly in the plays of Badal Sarkar's Beyond the Land of Hathamala. Badal Sarkar's theatre, in the true sense, is a contemporary theatre, because he is different from the other playwrights of India in that sense that he is a man of theatre and he is more interested not in the writing of the plays but in the creation of the theatre, and he wants the theatre should be the theatre of the people. In that sense, he created his new concept of Angan Mancha and presented plays wherever the demand was made by the people. After the performance of the play Bhoma, he asked a question to one of the audiences that is it possible for him to follow whatever is going on in the play, and the answer that was given by the poor peasant, if I cannot, who can then? So his theatre is really a people's theatre which is created without any expectation of money. The performances took place wherever demand was made by the people. He is the man of theatre because so far as the writing of the play is concerned, so far as the performance of the play is concerned, it is all those things happen with the cooperation of the people, and that is why he is different from the other playwrights, and his theatre is contemporary in true sense of that word. Here we observe that some of the plays of these playwrights are considered classics because they crosses the boundaries of historicity and temporality. Examples can be cited such as the plays Tughlaq by Girish Karnad, Ghashiram Kotwal by Vijay Tendulkar. The plays are based on one of the incidents in the history, but they cannot call the historical plays because whatever situation is depicted there, that belongs to all times and climes. After writing Taledanda, Girish Karnad had given one statement that 100 years of history indicate that we are exactly at the same place where we have started. Means there is no change in the society because there is no change in the mindset of the people, in the thinking capacity of the people. And the main object of these playwright is to project life as it is, and whatever situation is depicted there, that belongs to all times and climes. Similarly, the characters, they belong to all periods and all societies, and that is why the plays of some of the plays of these playwrights are considered classics. And because of that, the playwrights which first introduced in the society as regional playwrights, then got the status as the pan-Indian playwrights, and later on international playwrights. It is observed that negative side of life is projected by these playwrights, but they have the dream of egalitarian society. The society that is projected there, it is full of violence, corruption, but the playwright aims that people have to know all these we can say ills and evils in their own life, and try to find out solution, try to find out remedies to their own problems. And that is why here they seem to share the cosmopolitan sensibility that is observed in the lines of Tagore, that where he says that where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection, where the mind is laid forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake, that dream we observed in Beyond the Land of Atamala by Badal Sarkar. In short, we can say that the plays of these playwrights take man on on a voyage. It is a voyage within ourselves. They enable us to free ourselves from the crypt, cabin, and confined existence, and to become human as possible. I'm thankful to Ravande sir, Shinde sir, principal of the college, and to all of you for listening me patiently since I think from 45 minutes. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, madam. Over here, I propose my sincere thanks to Dr. Shailaja Wadekar, madam, for enlightening all of us with the East-West trends in contemporary Indian theatre. Then I would like to hand over this session to Dr. Kapse sir for the session of Dr. Rahul Kamble sir. Mr. Kapse.
Sir, if the audiences have some question, give them a chance.
Okay, madam. Now I will request all the audience participants, okay, they may raise their questions if they have. I think, madam, there is no question because the session was very clear session. Okay, that's why there would not be any question. Okay, if you have any question, you may raise.
May I ask a question, sir?
Yes.
Ma'am,
sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Ma'am, it is been said that Vijay Tendulkar always represents some kind of a problem in his plays, and as a student of literature, I think it is the job of the author to give some kind of a solution. This is one of the perceptions. It's not necessary that the author should give a solution to the problem. And this is my observation when I read Kanyadan or any other play of Tendulkar. Tendulkar has dexterously presented all the problems of the society, vices of the society, but he has not represented. He has not given any solution to those problems. Why is it so, ma'am? What is your take on it?
Sir, the main purpose is to make the people introspective, to think, to make them conscious of the problems of their own life and to find out their own remedy, so that people will think. If the solution is there, they will not think. Make
Okay.
the people thinking about their own life. The change is possible only when you become introspective. Otherwise, change is not possible. And to change the world, that is the main purpose of writing of Vijay Tendulkar or his contemporaries. That we observe in the plays of British playwrights also, American playwrights also. If the solution is given, people will not think. To make people think, that is the goal. That is the purpose.
Okay.
That is why answers are not given. Remedy, that is not given there.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Is there any question?
Subhash sir, Shinde sir, I have a doubt. For actually,
madam.
I just don't wanted to ask Shailaja ma'am. Her presentation was very clear. Uh, I have a question for Mutsajib Khan sir. May I ask my question to Mutsajib Khan sir?
Okay.
Actually, it's a doubt.
Okay, madam. Sorry.
Actually, Swati ma'am,
Yes, sir.
she's busy in another schedule. Actually, he's there to deliver a lecture for a fish course. So therefore, I don't think that she's present at the moment.
Okay, fine, sir.
So you can just convey your question to us.
What question you have?
Ma'am,
I'll answer
yeah.
that question.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So he mentioned that there is no beginning, middle, and end in Indian philosophy, in Hinduism. So I feel this is actually my uh, own understanding about it. So I feel that we should not deny that this concept of beginning, middle, and end that came from Western culture. So because this is my understanding, I feel that this itself is a cyclic process, beginning, middle, and end, and it can be applied in our Hinduism. So to understand it simply, we can see it as, the Lord Brahma is the creator, the deity of beginning, and Vishnu as a protector, and Lord Mahesh is the destroyer. So here, these are related to our beginning, middle, and end. The life begins and there is end. So the question was, if there is no end in Hinduism, then what is death? If we'll not die, then rebirth is not possible. So that was
Swati,
my
now
question.
let me speak. Swati.
Yes.
He is speaking in connection with the contemporary world, the present world.
Yes,
So far
yes.
as beginning, middle, and end is concerned, that formula is given in Poetics by Aristotle. The play should have a proper beginning, it should have the middle, it should have the end. And the same formula is there in our life also. We come in this world, we live the life, and we take a departure. That is our end. But
Yes.
when we observe the present situation, there is no certainty. Anything can happen to the next moment, particularly in the COVID world we are observing. In that sense, he used that one, I think. Similarly, the death, you are saying that the death of the author, that title has been used to his essay by Roland Barthes. That is the death in which sense, not going away from the world. The duty of the man comes to an end. That is the death of the author. And so far as beginning, middle, and end is concerned, the trend of absurd started in the decade of 70s. And so far as the absurd plays are concerned, there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no middle part also. Any part can be taken as beginning, any part can become the middle, any part can become the end. In that sense, he might have used that one. Because absurd play indicate that human life is essentially meaningless. It starts and ends in nothingness.
Yes.
But still, it ends on optimistic note because of what? Although man knows there is no meaning, he or she tries his level best to do something good so that future may be better one, and that is why we are living here. So there is
Yes.
no beginning, there is no end, there is no middle part. Not only so far as theatrical world is concerned, that is applicable to human life also, so far as the present scenario is concerned.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And my next doubt, the next question, may I ask if the organizers permit me?
Yeah, madam, you may ask your question.
Once he mentioned, Mutsajid Khan mentioned that there was no theater, almost I know, from I think classical theater during what you may say, the Middle Ages, 12th century to 17th, 18th century. There were no theater. Then what about folk theater? He mentioned that there was no theater. So what is folk theater then? Is it not considered the theater of Middle Ages?
Yeah, may I answer? I am there. May I answer?
Yes,
Mustajid,
Yeah, I am there. I am there.
she is asking a
yes, sir.
question to you.
I know, I know. I heard.
So it came out of Bhakti movement, the folk theater that came out of Bhakti movement. So what is that, sir?
Listen, listen, listen.
Yes, sir.
The so-called concept of theatre in India is really.
Sir, your voice is not clear, sir.
Somebody's mobile is ringing. Yeah. Now, the concept of theatre, which I said that from 8th century to 18th century, there was no theatre as such which we call it as, because Sanskrit theatre is a performative theatre. Sanskrit theatre has allowed the mainstream persons to come in and understand it. They have not considered folk as the theatre in itself. So folk is not considered as theatre earlier. Folk is considered as part of rituals. It is to be performed in front of deity. It is a ritual, and that
Oh,
ritual is not considered as theatre. Theatre is what Kalidasa wrote, what Bhasha wrote, what different Sanskrit playwright wrote. That is called as theatre with text to perform on the stage. In folk, there is no text to perform. You will get the ideas of performances of tamasha, idea of Ramalila, idea of Rasalila, idea of Gondar, that is taking place, but that is a part of ritual to be performed in front of
oh,
any deity, god, goddess. That's why that is not to be considered as theatre as such, but the performances that you will find out in Sanskrit drama is not part of 1,000 years in India. Later on, university started, and Shakespearean theatre, the people used to start perform theatre on the stage. The audience is sitting and watching the play. That's why folk theatre is not considered as theatre in Indian concept. It is considered as a performance in front of rituals, in front of deities. And the earlier question, what you said, what Dr. Vadikar madam has informed you, she clarified it very beautifully to you. But my answer for that is, I said in connection with absurd theatre. Why Indian system is not absurd? There is end to everything. If there is no end, there is no new beginning. And that's what I said in philosophy. The linearity is with Western philosophy, where there is no concept of rebirth. But in Indian or subcontinent philosophy, there is a concept of rebirth. If you ask any, and that's why you will find out in Western philosophy, in Western world, there is end of world. There is no new coming of world. There is new world, no new world. The Eastern religions has given this idea of rebirth or recoming or resurrection, or you will find out coming to Byzantium. These new ideas are coming from Eastern world. That's why the linearity is with beginning, middle, and end related with Western ideas, not with Eastern ideas. That was what you have to understand. Okay?
yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Mustajid Khan, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Shailaja Wadikar, madam. Thank you very much, Dr. Shivaji Methe and Ms. Swati Joshi for making this session very, very fruitful one, as well as the interactive session. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Then I will request Mr. Kapse, sir. Mr. Kapse, sir, to begin the next session of Dr. Raul Tamre, sir.